focus on that, expand on that very angle, because it affects India as well. 7 of those bombers, 14 of those bombs in 19 hours it took to take off to that strike. As far as it was launched in the dead of the night, an entire nation was sleeping in Iran, and beyond their imagination that they could think that these attacks would be carried out by the United States of America. The stealth bombers that pulled off a midnight strike, it was a hammer blow on Iran's nuclear ambitions, with massive airstrikes on their 3 nuclear facilities, Natanz, Fordo and Isfahan. Now the United States claims that they have decimated all of the 3 facilities, but the focus is now on Fordo, which is one of the key nuclear facilities in Iran that is believed to be one of the most out of reach militaries across the world, because how deep underneath the facility has been situated, it has been made. State-of-the-art military equipment, including B-2 stealth bombers that were used carrying the GBU-57 bunker buster bombs on this operation. And the United States now claims that it has completely, this is coming in from President Trump no less, that it has obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. However, the United States says that it is still open for talks and dialogue and hopes that Iran will accept the deal. But Tehran has now made it clear. This says that this is betrayal, and this is something where the trust has been broken, and there is no now time for diplomacy to take over.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do.
This mission was not and has not been about regime change. The president authorized a precision operation to neutralize the threats to our national interests posed by the Iranian nuclear program and the collective self-defense of our troops and our ally Israel.
The warmongering and lawless administration in Washington is solely and fully responsible for the dangerous consequences and far-reaching implications of its act of aggression.
Now, you heard from the Iranian side, it says it is ready to retaliate. But what exactly is going to be the next step of Iran, how it is planning to now hit back? While military action may soon be on the cards, what Iran, what is now being said according to reports, actually plans to do immediately could have larger ramifications on global crude oil supply chain. The Iranian parliament is now preparing to shut the Strait of Hormuz, and this could effectively cripple the global oil supply chain. Let's exactly tell you why it is critical. Because here, when we speak of this key area, it's a very narrow Strait of Hormuz, and whenever there has been conflicts across the globe, this strait has never been closed. Now, what is the Iranian government thinking? Because between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, this is the narrow Strait of Hormuz, where we are looking at almost 20% of the LNG and the oil supply of the world may get affected. Why is it significant? Because it is strategically located, and these are important choke points as well, which serves primarily when it comes to exporting the route of Gulf producers as well. Around 20% of the world's daily consumption uses this particular route. Now, what is being said as far as the possible impact would be if Iran decided to close the Strait of Hormuz? One of the impact would be the global oil price. It could spike up, because as far as the route and the transportation is also concerned, there would be alternatives that they would have to think of, and that would take time, and that would also cost a lot of money. Now, LNG exports that come in from the state of Qatar, that would be severely hit. Another impact that would be the shipping route, that they have to be rerouted. The costs would go up, the delays would also be mounted, and even when it comes to the insurance premiums for the tankers, that will also surge and it will skyrocket. The energy security security crisis for Asia and Europe could build into a bigger one, and it could impact India as well. Other countries as well, like China and Japan. But the supply chain, that could be a shock for the petrochemicals, where global markets would be rendered unstable and there would be growing inflation pressures, especially when it comes to developing economies. India has already increased the share of both Russian oil imports and that of the United States in the past 1 month alone. So what is now being said, India is now looking at alternative sources as well. The oil imports that are now coming from Russia, in May 2025, it was nearly 1.96 million barrels per day. In June 2025, we are looking at as an increase from 2.2 million barrels per day. The oil imports that have been coming in from the United States, in May 2025, it was 0.28 million barrels per day. That has now gone up to 0.43 million barrels per day.
We had diversified the sources of supply, and out of the 5.5 million barrels of crude oil that India consumes daily, about 1.5 and 2 million only come through the Straits of Hormuz. We import roughly 4 million barrels through other routes, and our companies, the oil marketing companies, have enough stocks. Most of them have stocks up to 3 weeks. One of them has, in fact, 25 days stocks. And we are also confident that we can increase the supply of crude through other routes. I believe that there is no cause for any alarm on this score. Of course, we will be watching the unfolding situation. Meanwhile, we continue to be prepared to meet the evolving situation.
Well, Ashesha is connected with us. Good morning to you. As we are looking at the current situation of the conflict, Ashesha, that has been increasing in the Middle East, we just heard that coming from the Union Minister, where he says that our oil marketing companies have supplies of several weeks and will continue to receive energy supplies from different routes as well. But will it impact price fluctuation? Will it cause price fluctuation?
Well, yes, we have some important and crucial commentary that has come in from Oil Minister Hardeep Singh Puri with respect to sufficient supplies in the Indian market. But remember, this is definitely likely to have an impact on global oil prices. Today morning, Brent crude has inched nearly 2% higher. It is nearing that $80 per barrel mark on fears that perhaps the Strait of Hormuz could be blocked if the tension escalates further. As of now, as you mentioned, Iran has in the past threatened to block this particular waterway, although they've not done it in the past. But if at all tensions escalate and this waterway is blocked going forward, oil prices could surge even higher. Currently, they are trading at about $80 per barrel. They have risen nearly 30% in the last 40 to 45 odd days. So that's the kind of up move that we have seen in the oil prices over the last 30 to 35 odd days. For now, they're trading at $80 per barrel. But if tensions escalate going forward, and if the Strait of Hormuz is blocked going forward, perhaps oil prices could inch further higher from current levels.
All right, Ashesha, thank you very much for joining in. Of course, as the current situation has been escalating, Mr. Arasan Singh, sir, when we speak of the Strait of Hormuz and what Iran would have on its mind to do as far as with the closure is concerned, has India done its forward thinking already as far as diversifying our supplies in the past few years, and a large volume of our supplies do not actually come through the Strait of Hormuz now? Is India prepared?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we should not forget the fact that we were hit by this Red Sea crisis as well, primarily owing to the Israeli-Iran conflict. And as per some estimates, we lost about $30 billion because of the Red Sea, because the ships had to take that route of Cape of Good Hope. So the Strait of Hormuz, as the Honorable Minister pointed out, he was very confident that we have a lot of options on our table, and we did exercise them when there was crisis, other geopolitical crisis. But it's an important strait, 34-kilometer wide at its narrowest point, and as you rightly said, that 30% of the gas and 25% of the oil supplies are through this strait from that region. But there are other players as well. You have this, you have UAE, the Fujairah port, Oman, Johar port, and Qatar. And one should not forget the fact that on the western coast of the Persian Gulf there is a string of American bases.
Yes.
And which the Iranians have been very, very careful about
yes.
of not not targeting them.
Yes.
So that factor is also there.
But
so
will there be a fallout? Dr. Benkin, what is your point of view? If the closure of Strait of Hormuz continues, say, for over a week, if this conflict continues, will it jolt the global economy?
Yeah. First of all, look, it's always possible that a crazy regime like the one in Iran could do something like that, but it wouldn't make any sense. Besides the fact that it would anger the United States, as you mentioned, and possibly bring on greater retribution, the country that's going to be hurt the most is China. And China is pretty much Iran's only patron at this point. I just can't see Iran sticking their thumb in China's eye and telling they don't care what happens. And by the way, the other nation that would be hurt the most by it is Iran. Israel has pretty much cut off their supplies of revenue. The little bit they have left is the oil revenue they can get through that part of the world. So what are they going to do when they're not getting any more money? So again, they'd be cutting off their nose to spite their face by losing their last little bit of income, and they'd be hurting their number one patron, and that's China.
Absolutely, and that's the point that you've been making as far as the potential fallout is concerned. Dr. Benkin is of the view, because China buys so much oil from Iran, a long disruption here could actually force Beijing to turn to other sellers. That would further complicate the price question as well. Thank you very much, Arasan Singh sir and Dr. Benkin, for joining us here on the broadcast. We head into a short break. More breaking updates lined up on the other side.